Hello everyone, welcome back to the video session on analog and digital electronics lab. So in the previous video sessions we have covered all the experiments of the digital electronics along with the software part. So in today's session what we are going to do is we will be checking out the experiments of part A, that is analog electronics lab. What are the components that we are going to use in this particular lab and what are the different experiments. So if we can see here, we have 3 experiments from the analog electronics lab. So the first experiment is about designing and constructing a Smith trigger using an op-amp for a given UTP and LTP, and you need to demonstrate its working, and the same has to be designed using a software package also. The second is all about designing a rectangular waveform generator, that is relaxation oscillator, and the same has to be demonstrated along with the software package. Moving on to the third one, the third experiment is about designing and implementing an unstable multivibrator circuit using 555 timer for a given frequency and duty cycle. So before getting into the depth of this experiment, what we need to know is we need to be getting familiarized with the components what we are going to use in this particular laboratory, or how this particular circuits has to be rigged up. So in the previous video sessions what we have seen is the circuits what has to be rigged up were all rigged up on a digital trainer kits using the patch cords and the ICs. That was all about digital components. But moving on to the analog electronic circuit experiments, the circuit has to be rigged up using the analog components such as resistors, capacitors, wires, or maybe I need to use some ICs or maybe potentiometers, and the output has to be observed in the DSO, or it has to be observed in a oscilloscope. So we will check out the components one by one. The very first component what I need to know, or what I need to get familiarized here is the breadboard. So the component what you are seeing right now is called as breadboard. This is the base on which we are going to keep all the components what a circuit contains. It may be a resistor, it may be capacitor, it may be an op-amp, it may be a 555 timer, it may be an IC, it may be wires, or whatsoever circuit contains. All the components are to be placed in this particular breadboard. So speaking about this particular breadboard, you can see there are lot of ports that are present on the surface of this particular breadboard. So you can see it is broadly categorized into this. The top one can be called as first section. This is your second section. After that there is a break. After that you can see there is a second section of ports, and the last section. The first and the last section of ports what you can see here, that is this ports and this ports what you can see here, this are the ports normally which are used to make the ground connections. That is, normally I will not be connecting any of the components to this particular ports or holes what I can see here. So these are normally used to make the ground connections. And the thing what you need to remember about this particular ports are, they are all horizontally connected. That is, this port is internally connected to this one, it is internally connected to this one, and it is internally connected here and here. So all these 5 ports are internally connected, whereas there is no vertical connection. This port is not connected to this one. It is not at all connected. Internally it is connected horizontally, not vertically. So this 5 are 1 connections and the top 5 are 1 connections. Similarly, this 5 are 1 connections and this 5 are 1 more connections. So you need to remember these connections here. The ground connections or the top and bottom group of ports what I can see in the breadboard are all connected horizontally, not vertically, and those are very specifically used to make the ground connections of the circuit. Speaking about the second section and the third section of the ports what can be seen in the breadboards, these are the ports normally in which I'll be placing my components. It may be a resistor, it may be a capacitor, or it may be an inductor, it may be a potentiometer, or it may be an IC or anything. Normally this particular section of ports are used to make connect the analog components, and this here the connections will be running vertically, that is this pore is connected to this one, that is connected to this one, here it is connected and it is connected, which means that all the 5 pores which are present here are vertically connected, not horizontally, whereas here it is all horizontally connected, whereas here it is all vertically connected, and there is no connection between this pore and this pore here, because this is a separate group of pores and this is the separate group of pores what I can see here. So this 5 are connected, this 5 are connected, this 5 are connected here, and the top ones are separately connected. So this is what is called as breadboard. So if I say I'll be taking one of the component, let me say I'll be taking one of the component that is present here. Let's say this is the component what I'm going to take. You can place this component something like this. You can place the component, see here, you can place it like this. So it is placed. You can see it is placed in 2 ports. Is it clear? So let's speak about the connections later. Let's get familiarized with the components what we are going to use in my analog and or analog electronic circuits laboratory. So this is your breadboard. So what you need to remember is all the section of ports are separate. So this one and this one are used for making ground connections, and this is where I'll be placing the components. Here it is horizontally connected and here it is vertically connected. This is regarding the breadboard. The next component what we are going to check is, you might be familiar with this component. The component what you are seeing right now, these are called as resistors. So this resistor will be having a color code. You can see every resistor has got a color code. You can see it is made up of there's a silver lining, there's an yellow lining, there's a black color, and there's a brown color. So every resistor will be having its own color codes, and the color code corresponds to the resistance of the resistor. So you need to be knowing how to calculate the resistance of the resistor using the color codes. But as we are going with the advanced part of this particular experiments, we need not remember the color codes, because there will be a device which will be provided to you which will be helping you in finding out the resistance of the resistors. The next component what we are going to check out are these ones. The components what you are seeing right now, these are called as capacitors. The things what you can see here, which doesn't resemble a cylinder, these are your capacitors, and the one what you can see here, this is also different kind of capacitor. The resistors what you can see here, these are called as ceramic capacitors, and this is called as electrostatic capacitor. And if you can check the legs of this particular capacitor, see if you can see here, you can see one of the leg is lengthier, this leg is lengthier, and one is short. So this lengthier leg corresponds to positive and the shorter one corresponds to negative ones. Very similarly, even here also you can see, when I speak about this capacitors also, one of the leg will be lengthier and other one will be shorter. The longer leg corresponds to the positive terminal of the capacitor, and the smaller one corresponds to the negative terminal of the capacitor. And the capacity of the capacitor will normally be written on the surface. If you can see this, if you can see this capacitor, the value of this capacitor will be written on the surface of the capacitor. What is the capacitor? It will be written normally in terms of farads, nanofarads or microfarads. Very similarly, if you can see this particular ceramic capacitors, the values or the capacitance of this particular components are also written on the surface. The next component what we are going to check out is this one. The component what you can see is a volume controller, what you would have seen in the music system. This is the same one, but it is not the outer thing what you can see in the car or in the music system is, it has only the outer led is, or outer connection is, or outer knob is available. So this is your knob. This is nothing but your variable resistor. Variable resistor means normally the capacity of this capacitor or potentiometer is what we call it as, will be specified in terms of, for example, let's say 0 to 10 kilo ohm, which means that this particular potentiometer can give you a resistance ranging from 0 ohms to 10 kilo ohms. So how do you do that? As you can find a knob here. This knob is rotatable. You can rotate this knob. You can rotate this knob from minimum position to maximum position. So you can rotate this knob. So when it is in the minimum position, the resistance is 0 ohms, and when you rotate it to maximum position, the resistance of this will be 10 kilo ohms, and you can find two connecting terminals. So if I take the potentiometer with respect to a capacitor, resistor here, it's the same. Whereas this has got fixed resistance, this has got variable resistance. So this has also got two terminals and this has also got two terminals. Whereas in case of this one, the resistance is variable, and in case of this one, the resistance is fixed. The next component what you need to get familiarized in case of the analog lab is a digital multimeter. So the component what you can see right now is a digital multimeter. Why do we call it as a multimeter? Normally this particular device is used to measure almost all the parameters of my lab. You can measure current, you can measure voltage, you can measure DC parameters, you can measure AC parameters, you can measure resistance, you can check whether the circuit is continuous or there is any discontinuity in the circuit, you can find out the frequency of any component, you can find the temperature, and you can find whether a transistor is working fine or not. So this particular device is that one. Normally you can see here there are three terminals. So speaking about the probes of this one, so these are the probes. This is one probe and this is the other one. So you normally will be provided with two probes. The one is red color, the other one is black in color. The black color probe has got this terminal which is to be plugged in always to the common point here. So you can see something written as common here, so it has to be plugged into common. The red one has to be connected to the as per the parameter what you are going to measure. For example, if you are measuring voltage, resistance or frequency, the red one has to be connected here. Suppose if you are measuring current or something, you have to unplug it, you have to unplug that wire and it has to be connected to the parameter what you are measuring. You can connect it to current or you can connect it to current what you are going to measure. Let me connect it to voltage itself, and you have a knob here which has to be turned. So as soon as you turn on there, you can see the readings. As of now I have kept it in voltage. As of now I kept it in the voltage. So if you want to measure voltage, you can measure the voltage. For example, if you want to measure the resistance, you can keep it to the resistance. If you want to check the continuity, or if you want to check whether the diode is working fine or not, you can keep it here. If you want to measure the capacitance, you can keep it here. If you want to measure the frequency, it can be kept here. So lot of things. Similarly, if you want to measure current, you have to keep it either to microamps, milliamps or amperes, and this red terminal has to be shifted to one of this. So this is what I said. You need not remember the color codes of the resistors, because I'll be giving you a device which will be helping you in finding out the resistance of the resistor. So what you can do is you can take these two terminals. There are two terminals which are free, right? You can see there are two terminals which are free. So these two terminals can be connected to two terminals of the resistor. For example, let's say that I am going to take a resistor here. So you can connect red one to one of the terminals and you can connect black one to other terminals, and this will be displaying the resistance of the resistor. So almost a digital multimeter will be used to find out the values of almost all the analog components what we are using in the laboratory. So you need not remember the color codes, or you need not go and check what is the value of the resistor or what is the value of the capacitor. You have a digital multimeter, you can find out the value of voltage, you can find out the value of current, you can find out the value of resistance, capacitance or any of the analog components what I will be using in the laboratory. The component what you are seeing right now, this is called as regulated DC power supply. So normally this component is used almost in all the three experiments what I am going to conduct in the analog electronic circuits lab. So normally when I say it's a regulated DC power supply, this is a circuit, or this is a component which can be giving you DC power supply as per your requirement. So for example, let me say that I want a voltage of 5 volt. So this device can give you a voltage of 5 volt. And there are two terminals. What you can see here is you can see two terminals, which means that I can use this as dual power supply. Dual power supply means I will be getting two power supplies from this particular device. So one power supply will be obtained from here and one more power supply will be obtained here. For example, let us say that you have built up a circuit which needs one of the power supply which is 10 volt and one more power supply which is let's say 15 volt. So you need not go in search of a device, or you need not go in search of one more device which will be giving you 10 volt and 15 volt separately. So 10 volt can be taken from these two terminals, which is positive and negative, and remaining one more 15 volt can be taken from this positive terminal and this negative terminal. So this normally has got a connection which is to be connected at the back end. You can see it's already connected at the back end. You can see the lights being turned on. Once it has been turned on, there's a power supply button here. So you need to turn on the power supply. And once it is turned on, you can see the readings here. So let me say that there are knobs here. So this is the knob which is used to set the voltage, and this is a knob which is used to set the current. So there are two power supplies. So I'll be having four knobs. So first knob is used to set the voltage. It's given here: set voltage, current limit, set voltage and current limit. So let me say I want a voltage of around 10 volt. Okay, let's say that I want a voltage, DC voltage of 10 volt. So what you need to do is, first thing what you need to take care is, there are two push buttons here. One is in order to set the voltage and one is in order to set the current. So it is given here. If it is in the released position, it will be giving you voltage. If it is in a pressed position, it will be giving you current. As I said, I want voltage right now. This button should be in the release position. See here, there are two things. If I push it, it will be going inside, and if I release it, it will be coming outside. It will be released. So as you are looking for voltage, you need to make sure that it is in the release position. As you are in need of voltage, it has to be released. Suppose you are in need of current, this has to be in the pressed position. So as I am needing current, I will be keeping in the released position, and make sure the second button is always on. See here, if I release it, it will not give you the output. So it should always be in the pressed position, saying that the output will be available, which says that it is on. After that, as you are looking for voltage, whenever you are taking voltage as output, make sure that this current limiter will always be in the maximum position. If you are taking voltage as output, always make sure this current limiter will be in the maximum position and start setting your voltage. So you are looking for 10 volt, right? So you can see there the voltage is increasing. It's 3.2, 5.1, 5.3, 6, 8. Let's say I want somewhere around 10 volt. Yeah, somewhere around 10 volt. I got a voltage of 10.1 or 10 volt as of now. So what you can do is, you can connect the wires. You can take the wires. This can be loosened here. You can see this can be loosened here. You can connect the wires here and you can tighten it. So positive connection will be done from here, and negative part of the connection will be done from here. It is not that I can take only 10 volt from this. At the maximum, I can take a voltage up to around 33, 34 volt I can take it. So the maximum voltage what your regulated DC power supply can give is 34 volt. So you can take 34 volt from here. Similarly, from here also you can take the same voltage. You can take a maximum voltage of 34 volt. So this is your regulated dual DC power supply. The things what you need to take care here is, if you are expecting voltage as output, keep your current limit to the maximum. Suppose if you are looking for current as the output, make sure this button will be in the pressed position. Once it is in the pressed position, make sure your voltage limiter will be set to the maximum value. After that, you can start setting the current. So right now what you are doing is, you will be setting the current, but normally I need to make the connections, because when I say that current has to flow, the current will be flowing from positive to negative terminal. As of now, the positive and negative terminals are open, the current is not flowing, that is why I am not able to set the current. But normally I will be using this particular DC power supply in order to take voltage as output. So this is one important component which has to be handled very carefully. Suppose if your circuit has got some short, or if it has got any other mistakes, normally you can see there is one more LED which is not glowing, which says CC here, or there will be a beep which will be coming from the circuit which says that there is a short in the circuit. As soon as you hear that beep from this particular device, you need to turn off the circuit, or you need to turn off the power supply, and you need to make sure you need to repair that particular circuit. The device what you are seeing right now is called as DSO, or you can call it as oscilloscope, or you can call it as digital signal oscilloscope. You can see there are a lot of buttons, and you can see a screen very similar to a monitor. So this device is used to observe the waveforms. When I say that I have rigged up a circuit, when you say that you have rigged up any of the circuit will be expecting some input and it will be giving some output. The input what you are giving to the circuit and the output what you are going to obtain from that particular circuit will be seen in this particular digital signal oscilloscope. So this has to be plugged into the power supply. So it's already plugged into the power supply, and there's a power button here. So this is your power button. So turn on the power button. As soon as you turn on the power button, you can see the screen displaying the manufacturer name along with some of its series numbers and all the things. So that has been displayed there. So let us see what are the things it has to be known there. See here. So here you can see there are two lines. One is yellow line and one is blue line. So you can see the yellow line is with respect to channel 1. So you can remove that line. If you press that channel 1, if you press that button, you can see the yellow line is gone. Similarly, I can remove the blue line also. So what it actually means is there are two channels which are available in the digital signal oscilloscope, which are used to see the input and output. So let me turn it on. Both the things are turned on, and those particular lines can be moved up and down. So here you can see there are above yellow thing there is a knob here, above yellow thing there is a knob here. So you can rotate it. If you rotate it in the clockwise direction, you can see your yellow line going up, or you can move it down. Similarly, you can move the green line up, or you can move the green line down. Normally what I do when I conduct my experiment is I'll try to coincide both the yellow and blue lines with the x-axis. So I'll try to coincide both the things with the x-axis. So it has been coincided with the x-axis as of now. Other than that, what other things I have here is I have a lot of buttons. What you can see here, you can see an acquire button. Acquire button is used to take the output what your digital signal oscilloscope is going to show. There is a display button here, utility, help button. Help button will be helping you to find out, or if you are stuck in anything, that will be giving you suggestions like what has to be done. Cursor movement, measurement, which you people need to use very frequently. Save and recall. So let me say that there's a waveform here and you need to save it. So you can press the save button, and the waveform whatever has been saved can be taken in the pen drive. Similarly, you have got a hard copy in the sense when you have saved something and that has to be moved to the pen drive, you need to press this hard copy button. So whatever data has been stored in the memory will be moved to your pen drive. Other than that, you have got level buttons, auto set, run, stop, menu, single, force, lot of things. So this is what your digital signal oscilloscope looks like. So in addition to this, how are we going to see the input and output? So this input and output has to be connected to the digital signal oscilloscope via the probes. So you can see there are probes available here. So these are the probes available here. So I'll show you the probes. So these are the possible probes what are available. So you can see this is one kind of probe what is available. Very similarly, you have other kind of probes. So this is the second kind of probe what is available. All are used to make the connections, and there is also one more kind of probe which is available. So these are all the wires what are used to connect the input so that I can see the input and output in the screen what is visible to you as of now. So let us see what has to be done initially. So initial thing what you need to do is, let me take one of the probes. I'll be taking one of the probes from here. So I'll take one of the probes. So normally a probe will be having two terminals. So this thing what you can see is used to make the connection to the DSO, and this is for the circuit. So this is your positive and this is your negative. So you can take the connection, you can take the probe, and you have to plug it. See, it has to be plugged in and it has to be rotated. It has to be plugged in and it has to be rotated. See, it's been shown again. So it is plugged in and it is rotated. So once you rotate it, when you try to pull it out, this shouldn't be coming out. This is how you make the connection. So probe is connected. So that is connected to which one? That is connected to channel 2. Channel 2 is which one? Channel 2 is blue color. So initial thing what I need to do is I need to check whether my DSO is proper. So you take the other terminal of the probe, and that has to be connected, or you need to connect it. So you can see a button here. You can see something called as 2 volt here, right? So you need to connect it to that 2 volt. And as soon as you connect it, can you see there is, I'll remove this yellow line. Okay, now can you see some sine waveform? So as soon as you can see a sine waveform, you say that this DSO and the channel and the probe is working fine. So let me explain some things with respect to this. So you can see the waveform there, right? So you can move the waveform up, or you can move it down using a up and lower arrow above the channel 1. Similarly, what you can do is you can also increase or decrease the amplitude. See here, there's a volt per division button. See here, can you see that it's increasing? It's increasing, right? Also you can decrease, you can reduce the amplitude of that. So that is possible. So normally this procedure is called as calibration of the DSO. Very similarly, let us do it with respect to LO channel also. Let us do it with respect to channel 2 also. So what we are doing is we are removing the connection from there and we are connecting it to second channel, and we will turn that channel on and we will turn the second channel off. So you can see the waveforms are not that clearly visible. Let us make the settings. So using the volts per division button, we have reduced it and you can see the sine waveform. Similarly, what you can do is you can increase or decrease the frequency also. There's a button here by the name times per division. So if you increase it, you can see your waveform becoming wider and wider. And if you reduce it, you can see your waveform becoming smaller and smaller, or the bandwidth is becoming smaller and smaller. So this is what you need to know. Suppose you say that, let us say that, sir, the things have been, I'm not able to set the things. So what you can do is, you can go to auto set. You can go to auto set and you can press the button. Once you go to auto set and press the button, everything will be set to its default value. Everything will be set to its default value. And let's say that, sir, I want to measure the amplitude and I want to measure the frequency. So what you can do here is, you can see a measure button. You can see a measure button here. So you can press the measure button here. When you press the measure button, you can see all the values appearing. Peak to peak value, average value, frequency, duty cycle, periods, everything appearing on the screen. This is with respect to channel 1. The same thing can be observed with respect to channel 2 also. This is with respect to your digital signal oscilloscope. But you need to be very careful when you're handling this particular device, as it is cost-wise it is very high. So you need to be handling this particular device very carefully. So as soon as you turn on, you need to check whether the channels are working properly. If the channels are working properly, only then you can go with the connections. And as I said normally I'll be using these probes. Volts per division probes will be used and time division probes will be used, and I'll be using up and down arrow marks. Along with that, I'll be using measure buttons. Other than that, I'll not be going to touch anything until and unless I'm not able to do any settings again. I'll go with the auto set. Once I go with the auto set, everything will be set back to its default value. The very last device what you are seeing on the screen right now is called as signal generator. So you have seen regulated power supply, you have seen digital signal oscilloscope. The very last one what you are going to see is signal generator. So as the name says, signal generator, this particular device is going to generate the signals of your choice. For example, let me say there is a circuit which is in need of sine waveform of a particular frequency. And one more person says that, sir, I need triangular waveform of a particular frequency of a particular amplitude. And one more person will say, sir, I need some, what you can call, a square waveform of a particular frequency. So this particular device has got the capacity to generate all the particular waveforms and give it to the circuit, because normally when I speak about a circuit, my circuits will be in need of some particular waveforms. So those particular things are being generated by this particular device. So there's a power button at the back end. So let's turn on the power button. So as soon as you turn on the power button, you can see something's getting displayed there. It is displaying something. So the first thing what I need to set here is, you need to initially say that you need to initially check whether you are in need of voltage or frequency. So if you are in need of voltage or frequency, you need to check this. So if this is in released position, this will be giving frequency as output, and if this is in the pressed position, it will be giving voltage as output. So this is the first thing what I need to do. Normally I'll be taking frequency as output, and you can see a lot of tables here, 0.22, 20 to 200. So this actually gives you the range. So the minimum frequency what can be obtained from this particular device is 0.2 hertz, and the maximum frequency what can be obtained from this device is 2 megahertz. So this is for the selection of the frequency. Apart from that, there are adjustments here. So you can see the adjustments here, coarse and fine. So this are normally used to make the adjustment of the frequency. For example, let us say that I have set a frequency of 200. Okay, I have set a frequency of 200. So out of 200, let's say that I want only 100 hertz. So what you can do is you can make the adjustments here. You can make the adjustments here so that you get a frequency of 100 hertz. You can see the value getting increased there. So this is for that coarse adjustments, and this is for that smooth adjustment. So you can make the smooth and coarse adjustments using the knobs provided here. And other than that, you have got terminals for symmetry. Symmetry in the sense, in order to make the waveform equal on both the ends, positive as well as negative. Other than that, you have got a button in order to turn on the symmetry, and you have got a selection of waveforms. You can see a sine wave, triangular waveform, and a square waveform. Other than that, this is for attenuation levels. Attenuation level is for the signal processing, which I am not going to use as of now. Then one more is for DC offset, which we'll be discussing when it is needed. So let us say that, sir, I want to see how the waveform, or what exactly will be the waveform from this one. So we will connect it to the digital signal oscilloscope and we will see it. So I'll try to take the output from the signal generator. So here, these are the two terminals which will give you the output. So one is TTL and one is function. Normally don't take the output from the TTL, always take the output from the function. So let us connect the probe to the function. So I have taken the probe. So the probe is taken, the same probe what I have been using in order to make the connections to the DSO. So the same probe has been taken. So this is the probe what has been taken. So this is the probe. So let me make the connection so that I can see the waveform in the digital signal oscilloscope. So connection to the digital signal oscilloscope has also been done, and the wires from the signal generator and the digital signal oscilloscope are being made. See here, it's been made. Positive to positive and negative to negative are being made. Fine. Let's get back to this. Let me say that I will make a selection of sine waveform. Let me make a selection of sine waveform. So if the frequency is let's select some frequency here. Let us make the selection of the waveforms. Let's say that we will be going for the sine waveforms. Yes, and let's make the adjustments in the, yeah, you can see there. You can see the waveforms appearing on the digital signal oscilloscope. So let's go with some other frequencies. So you can see it here, you can see the waveforms. So I'll be selecting sine waveform, and you can see the waveform appearing on the digital signal oscilloscope. In case if you want to measure the values, you can go to and press the measure button, and the measure button will be displaying you all the values. Very similarly, you can go on changing the frequencies of your choice. What I have kept as of now is the frequency what I have been looking for as of now is 10.72. So you can change the frequency of your choice. You can make it around as of now the frequency has become 1.8 kilohertz. So you can reduce it if you want. You can reduce it. You can reduce it to 970, or you can reduce it to the values of your choice. So normally this particular device what you saw right now, this is used to generate the waveforms of your choice as per the circuit what you have designed. It may be a sine waveform, or it may be a triangular waveform, or it may be a square waveform. So once you lay your hands on this particular device, you will have a more flexibility with this particular components. As of now, you are looking into the videos of this particular components, so most of the things will be left out unclear itself. So anyways, once you're back to the college, we will be having all these components on the table, and you people can be using these components as per your choice under the supervision of the lab technicians or the faculties of the lab. So all these components will be familiar with you people.